investigation. When you appointed Mueller, and you were the one who did, you had to sign an order authorizing the appointment of a special counsel. And you said that he was authorized to investigate any coordination with Russia and, I want to put these words on the screen, any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. My question is, does that mean that there are no red lines that Mueller or any special counsel can investigate under the terms of your order anything he finds?
Well, Chris, the special counsel is subject to the rules and regulations of the Department of Justice, and we don't engage in fishing expeditions. Now, that order that you read, that doesn't detail specifically who may be the subject of the investigation,
right, because
we don't reveal that publicly.
Now, for a second, let's turn to Trump's military record, find out what happened there. Trump, meanwhile, was granted 4 deferments on the draft while he was studying at Fordham University and the University of Pennsylvania, and then was subsequently medically disqualified during an armed forces physical examination for supposed bone spurs in his feet, although no records exist to verify this claim.
Thanks to the Washington Post today, reporting by Carol Lenig, Tom Hamburger, and Rosalind Helderman, we now know that for some reason, after midnight on the night of the 25th, the morning of the 26th, so the night after he testified to the Intelligence Committee and the morning before he was initially scheduled to talk to the Judiciary Committee, for some reason, in the pre-dawn hours, the federal prosecutors and grand juries that have brought this thing this far decided that they would go another step and start doing this in a different way.
After Trump waking up on his 200th day in office at his golf club in New Jersey, where he'll be spending the next 2 weeks on a, quote, working vacation as the White House undergoes renovations. The president stressing on Twitter that he will still be taking meetings and calls while spending time at his resort, while touting the successes of his first 6 months in office. This as Vice President Mike Pence pushes back against a New York Times report that some Republicans have begun building 2020 shadow campaigns. With the report also cites a number of other Republicans allegedly weighing a 2020 bid as the president continues to grapple with record low numbers and an intensifying Russia investigation. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein asserting that Special Counsel Robert Mueller can investigate any crimes within the scope of investigation during an interview on Fox News.
If it's something outside that scope, he needs to come to the acting attorney general, at this time me, for permission to expand his investigation.
The New York Times reporting that Mueller's investigators have asked the White House for documents related to fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and possible payments from the Turkish government.
So in this case here, we have the Trump administration telling scientists working at these organizations, you are not to use the factually correct words. You are to use the politically correct words. So let's give you the details. They explain in the emails, climate change is in the avoid category to be replaced by weather extremes. Instead of climate change adaptation, staff are asked to use resilience to weather extremes.
Craig, a U.S. official briefed on the intelligence has confirmed to NBC News the gist of a Washington Post report this hour, which is that U.S. intelligence now assesses that North Korea has successfully miniaturized a nuclear weapon. In other words, built a warhead small enough to fit atop a missile, which is a significant milestone in nuclear weapons development and really increases the threat profile of North Korea to the United States, especially coming on the heels of that missile test last month of a missile that many experts assess could reach the U.S. mainland, Craig.
Korean Central News Agency, which is the state-owned news agency in North Korea, released a statement in regard to the sanctions and said the following: packs of wolves are coming in attack to strangle a nation. They should be mindful that the DPRK's strategic steps accompanied by physical action will be taken mercilessly with the mobilization of all its national strength. Donald Trump was asked about the statement released by North Korea, and his reaction to it was not measured. Take a look for yourselves.
Thank you. Any comment on the reports about North Korea's nuclear capabilities?
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. he has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with fire, fury, and frankly, power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's, what are you doing, man? Jesus Christ. So
the intelligence community has detected North Koreans loading cruise missiles capable of destroying a ship onto a North Korean patrol boat. This latter bit of news was retweeted by President Trump from the Fox and Friends Twitter feed this morning, and it frankly created quite the awkward situation when U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley was subsequently asked about the report that her boss had just retweeted to his 35.3 million followers.
I can't talk about anything that's classified, and if that's in the newspaper, that's a shame. It's incredibly dangerous when things get out into the press like that. You're not only just getting a scoop on something, you're playing with people's lives.
Yes. I'm sure North Korea is watching Western media, and especially your show, and they need to know something. This is not the Obama White House, and there is a very different man today as Commander-in-Chief. And they should not test President Donald J. Trump.
That may be exactly where he's going. I would be remiss if we didn't bring up what just happened at the Secretary of State's spokesperson's meeting before the press this morning. And let me just back up here for our viewers who might not know. I believe this morning you gave an interview to BBC Radio during which you said that it was nonsensical for Secretary of State Rex Tillerson to discuss military matters and that he was out of line. Let's hear what she said.
Never said that.
You've never said
I never said the Secretary of State was out. That's fake news 101.
Well, there's audio of you saying the word
the audio.
nonsensical.
I have the audio as well. Thank you.
So you're denying that you said that it's inappropriate, perhaps, for Rex Tillerson to have told the American people to calm down.
The president on the line to Washington, I asked him what the red line was that the North Koreans could not cross.
You should listen to the president. The idea that Secretary Tillerson is going to discuss military matters is simply nonsensical. It is the job of Secretary Mattis, as Secretary of Defense, to talk about the military options. And he has done so unequivocally today. He said, woe betide anyone who militarily challenges the United States, and that is his portfolio, that is his mandate. Secretary Tillerson is the chief diplomat of the United States, and it is his portfolio to handle those issues.
But are you telling me, though, Mr. Gorka, that if there is an action by North Korea that is felt by the United States to be threatening, then that is war? Is that the understanding that the North Koreans should have?
If you threaten a nation, then what should you expect?
Let's hear what she said.
Never said that.
You've never said
I never said the Secretary of State was out. That's fake news 101.
It's now big enough that Heather Nauert, the spokesperson for Rex Tillerson, was asked about it. She even said as she was walking out to the press event there that she was told about it. So let's hear what she had to say to reporters who asked.
The suggestion that was made is that that basically the Secretary Tillerson shouldn't be involved or shouldn't be listened to as it relates to policy towards North Korea. Is that something that you agree with?
I think that everyone has clearly heard what Secretary Tillerson's forceful comments have been and continue to be on the issue of DPRK and on other countries as well.
Should be paid attention to.
I would think so. Yes.
All right. So the idea
he's a cabinet secretary. He's a fourth in line to the presidency. He carries a big stick.
And Dr. Gorka is where in that line of success?
I don't work with with Sebastian Gorka. I have known him from a previous life and a previous career, but I have not spoken to him about the comments that he made.
All right.
And let me just leave it at that.
This week that the former Blackwater CEO, Eric Prince, had with CNN's Erin Burnett on talking about his plans, the proposal that he put forward to President Trump for Afghanistan.
You have to put someone in charge. There has to be a lead federal official, or in this case, almost a bankruptcy trustee that rationalizes the U.S. presence, that is in charge of all policy. Second, they have to stay there for a while, so you have that continuity of decision-making.
Okay, so the word you used for that person was viceroy, was an American viceroy.
And I mean viceroy. That's a colonial term. The last
it
thing
is a colonial term.
Sure. but that colonial term came from, in the British Empire, they had very little communications. And you had to put someone in charge that can make the decisions absent a ship going back and forth. But in this case...
CNN talking about an American viceroy that he's pushing for that apparently Bannon supports, and McMaster, the national security advisor, and James Mattis, both generals, are opposed to. So there's a real battle going on, and there's a real defamation campaign going on by extremely conservative forces against H.R. McMaster to push...
Department filed a brief in an Ohio case headed to the Supreme Court, which reversed the Obama administration's position in favor of voting rights. Under current Ohio law, if a voter has not cast a vote in 2 years, the state will send them a notice by mail. If the voter does not respond to that notice and casts no ballot for the next 4 years, he or she will be purged from voter rolls. Well, that's a problem because, again, it impacts voters. The Ohio voting, so first of all, again, that's what if you choose not to vote, first of all, I wish folks do vote. If you choose not to vote, fine. But what's the logic in removing people just because they didn't vote?
That's right. There is no logic to what the state of Ohio is doing. And what Ohio is doing is violating a federal voting rights law called the National Voter Registration Act. This is perhaps our second most important federal voting rights law, passed in the early 90s. And since that time, the Justice Department has taken the position that the NVRA prohibits what Ohio is doing.
A special folder is prepared for the President of the United States twice a day with all positive news about him. He gets one of these reports at 9:30 a.m. He gets another one of these reports at 4:30 p.m. Former Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and former Press Secretary Sean Spicer both reportedly wanted to be the people delivering the 20 to 25 page packet to Trump personally. I would guess because Trump likes people that bring him nice things. We are dealing with an egotistical, capricious child here, right?
Details continue to emerge surrounding the investigation into alleged collusion on the part of the Trump campaign. Bloomberg.com is reporting Robert Mueller, the head of the FBI, and his team of investigators issued subpoenas from a Washington grand jury to global banking details and records of transactions associated with Paul Manafort. Some of his company's business partners, including Rick Gates, according to people familiar with the matter. Paul Manafort's son-in-law is also being looked at for his role. Bottom line, Manafort's past continues to come back to haunt him, and at the center of it all is the million-dollar question of how involved was President Trump.
Last week, more than 5 dozen picks by President Donald Trump for senior posts across the government were approved. But that still leaves the president with 147 nominees awaiting action from the Senate. According to a tally maintained by the Independent Partnership for Public Service, this is significantly more vacancies than the previous 4 administrations had by early August.
70% of Americans believe that the federal investigation into Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 presidential election in the U.S. should be able to look into President Donald Trump's finances. 60% of those polled view the probe as a serious matter that should be fully investigated. A significant minority, 38% to be exact, view it as an effort to discredit Trump's presidency. By a roughly 2-to-1 margin, those polled disapprove of the way Trump is handling the Russia probe. 59% disapprove of the way he's handling it, while 31% approve.
The opioid crisis now officially a national emergency. President Trump taking a hardline stance as drug overdoses rise at horrifying rates.
Marian Rafferty brings us the details on the White House plan from Los Angeles.
Good morning. President Trump waging a war on opioids as more than 100 Americans die every day from the deadly drugs.
The opioid crisis is an emergency, and I'm saying officially right now it is an emergency. It's a national emergency. We're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money on the opioid crisis.
The president speaking at his golf resort in Bedminster, New Jersey, saying his administration is drafting the paperwork. The declaration is expected to waive health regulations, expand access to treatment, and make overdose antidotes more widely available. The White House also creating a pilot program in 12 districts across the nation to focus on preventing opioid-related health care fraud and pill mill schemes. Back to you.